Nothing contained in this videocast is intended to encourage the use of illegal substances. This videocast represents only the opinions of the host and their guests and should not be taken as medical or legal advice. In no way does listening, reading, corresponding, or interacting on social media with our content establish a doctor-patient or legal relationship. The content here is intended to share thoughts and opinions and foster constructive discussion. Please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions concerning cannabis. The views expressed by hosts and guests on this videocast are not necessarily the views of Global Cannabis Times or any other company with which the hosts and guests are associated.
Welcome, fellow cannabis enthusiasts, to another episode of Going Global, a Global Times videocast that looks to act as the eyes and ears on the ground in emerging worldwide cannabis markets and industry segments around the world. I'm Jim Ickes, counsel at Zuber Lawler, and I'm here with Christopher LaPorte from Reset, a cannabis hospitality management company located in Las Vegas, Nevada. Before we get to Chris, first, a disclaimer. Nothing contained on this videocast is intended to encourage the use of illegal substances. This videocast represents only the opinions of the hosts and their guests and should not be taken as medical or legal advice. In no way does listening, reading, corresponding, or interacting on social media with our content establish a doctor-patient or legal relationship. The content here is intended to share thoughts and opinions to foster constructive discussion. Please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions concerning cannabis. The views expressed by hosts and guests on this videocast are not necessarily the views of Global Cannabis Times or any other company with which the hosts and guests are associated. Hi, Chris. How you doing?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Great to finally do this. I've been looking forward to this discussion. So first, I guess before we dive in, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
2005, moved to Las Vegas, opened up a nightclub in 2010, and started to work on cannabis law in 2016. And as of last year, of October, we actually got a law passed to allow for cannabis social use lounges with the work with my business partner, Scott Rutledge, and our good regulators in the state of Nevada. And this year, working with the Thrive Cannabis Marketplace, we opened the very first state-regulated cannabis social use lounge. And now we're working on number 2 and number 3 to open up in Q1 of next year.
So you're truly a cannabis pioneer. Very much interested in the hospitality side of it. Many people say that it's the final frontier in the cannabis industry. So happy to get your thoughts today on this video cast. So the first experience. So what was the first lounge that you opened up?
So working with Thrive, we had the smoke and mirrors concept, which was, again, first of its kind. But what was exciting about that project was kind of creating a proof of concept to more than just the cannabis industry, but our friends on the strip, i.e. the casino market, because we just can't play with them because of federal regulations. But we want to show that we can be a pretty great partner from the perspective of cannabis tourism. That's my dog behind me. And so essentially one of the things that we were doing was trying to prove that it's more than just people smoking in a room, right? And let's start kind of destroying the stereotype of the cannabis stoner, which unfortunately still exists today. And we did that by way of pushing cannabis mocktails, cannabis drinks, cocktails. We still need a name for that. So whoever's out there, think of a way of talking about cannabis sophistication in cocktails so that we can have our own terminology. But what we saw was there was great demand for that product, which, I think a lot of cannabis enthusiasts are out there saying it doesn't sell in the dispensaries. So that's not a product that people want. But we're seeing a lot of markets open up that shows otherwise. So cannabis drinks out of this first product has been quite the success.
Wow, that's interesting to hear. What do you think about, I've heard soft spirits.
Soft spirits. Okay, not mad at that.
You're not mad at that? All right.
No.
So your cannabis experience. So how long have you, I imagine you're an advocate for the plant. So let's go way back.
Sticks and seeds since 1995. First trip to Amsterdam, late 90s. Really funny story about that one. And then, from there in, when I got into the nightclub world in Las Vegas in 2010, it was just more like, I know people want to smoke weed while they're hanging out. And when my business partner my current business partner, Scott, approached me in 2016. He's like, "You want to do nightclubs with weed?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's what everyone wants to do. So
Yeah.
let's get into it." So yeah, no, look, and the other fascinating thing too is, having really committed myself to the cannabis space for the past 8 years now. The fascinating thing was just seeing how many other options are out there, i.e., the cannabis dining experiences. Guys like the Nomad Chef and just the Herbal Chef and all these other guys who just have really cool monikers. But cannabis dining as a way to introduce the plant to outside audiences has been another exciting moment of this journey.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges and I guess getting to this point where you kind of knocked one down and you're on to the next. So what would have been some of the biggest challenges and maybe some of the things that you didn't foresee?
No, look, it's a really tip of the hat to the team at Thrive for having the gumption to go about being the first, because there are a lot of things that just still aren't in place to ensure a hospitality experience that, especially here in Las Vegas, we would really want to provide. And I say that from the perspective of some technologies, right? Like, we're still working through a state regulated processing system, aka metric. And in hospitality, we just have POS systems, and just, here's what you want and pop it in the machine, and we have a printer in the back that's printing out what you need, and things are getting created, and here you are. We don't have that yet right now, and I know these things are in development, and that's fantastic. But we were talking to guys like Dutchy and Flow Hub and saying, like, hey, this is a thing we're really going to want to do and be prepared for. But I understand their perspective, because how many state regulated lounges are in the United States right now? Is it really a market? Do we have the time to basically, invest in a space when there's so many other challenges in the cannabis industry to work on? And so from that perspective, technology is a thing. And then normalization is still a thing. There's still unbelievably, people who still believe reefer madness exists. It's just what it is. And with that out there, no matter how attractive you can make a product, and this is why we really pushed on making the venues more sophisticated and just elegant and more Vegas-like, there's still this is what cannabis consumers want. And it's like, yes, this is a lawyer, this is a doctor, this is a cocktail waitress, and these are all professionals, and we're adults, and we want to imbibe on, our product of choice. And those things were still there to kind of figure out. So technology and just cultural shifts are probably our biggest challenges.
Gotcha. And do you see that improving, or I guess over the last several months?
I think that, again, as more lounges open up, because the interesting thing about this space is, number one, no one knows what these things are supposed to be, right? We were preaching that it's going to be one thing, and then over time it starts to develop into something else, because we still don't necessarily know what cannabis culture is to the audience at large. I always like to kind of challenge people, like, well, define cannabis culture, and like, who is that demographic that's going to come into our venue to partake in cannabis social activities? You can't really dial it in. I have 21 to 65-year-olds coming through the door from all walks of life who just want to enjoy weed. How do you make something for them? You necessarily can't right now. So because we're new, it's like, let's just open it up to the audiences at large and find ways to attract the most people to enjoy weed. And as this product kind of proves itself and more states jump into the space, then we can start kind of diving into more niche markets to create, like, the sports bar of cannabis or the steakhouse of cannabis or what have you, versus right now, which is trying to make venues to safely consume and learn more about the product, because there's still a large audience of novices and or folks who haven't smoked in a very long time, and welcome to 27% THC, that we have to really slowly roll back into the industry.
So I too have been to Amsterdam, and that was my first consumption cannabis social experience. How would you describe, I guess, the vibe inside of the facility? Because it's so new.
So, the coffee house experience, or the coffee shop experience of Amsterdam, I experienced many times, but that was decades ago. And so as it stands today, because of the way regulations are written out, there's a lot of kind of hand holding right now. And that's a good thing, because we see the lounges as an opportunity to kind of open up to what we call the fringe market, just an industry of people outside of the traditional cannabis industry, but who aren't necessarily going to the dispensaries all the time, right? And so that market, to make it comfortable for them, it's about service, white glove service and hospitality. And it's questioning and it's learning about the guests before they jump into the space. So most importantly, from my perspective, is how many times have you smoked?
Mm-hmm.
What have you, done in the past? What have you enjoyed? Let's talk about terpene profiles. Do you even know what those are? And,
Yeah.
it's that kind of interview that we'll give the guests so that we could properly give that person the experience they're looking for without jumping all the way in. And I say that from my own experience when I first went to Amsterdam, and I was like, I want that white widow. And the guy was like, no, that's not for you. And I was like, yes, it is. And then I was just couch locked for 3 hours watching, I don't even know what I was watching, the damn Kring at the time when I was there. So we wanted to avoid that. And then additionally, it's just the ambiance, the music curation and entertainment, whether it's DJ entertainment, in the future, live music, of course, other entertainment factors like comedy shows and whatnot. The more we can integrate entertainment so that these venues are more than just a place to smoke, and then it's just like a cigar tasting room.
Mm-hmm.
That's again when we start to create something that people want, where at the end of the day, the business model should not be cannabis is the forefront and the top line of what you're making money off of. Let it be your third and fourth. Let it be food and beverage, ticket sales, and other, things to spend money on before you jump into just buying weed.
Fantastic. So at Smoke and Mirrors, no entertainment yet, or
right now, Smoke and Mirrors absolutely has DJ entertainment during the week and the weekends. They did a fantastic collaboration, and again, opportunities for social use lounges. Tie yourself to a brand that's doing a show in Las Vegas, i.e. at the Sphere, we had the Grateful Dead's Dead & Co. And so they did a collaboration with Garcia Handpicked. And now you have a reason to, hey, let's go to the lounge and hang out before we go out to the concert, because that makes sense. And so it's those kind of things that you integrate your industry into the other industries around you. And you've created a kind of a value proposition for cannabis consumers and just cannabis tourism as a whole.
Gotcha. What about supply? Any issues, getting inventory into the establishment, or
no?
Yeah, the operators are pretty keen on getting in. Gotcha.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, the other opportunity here is I've seen personally, because I've done a lot of travel. There's membership models, there's bring your own cannabis models. And a lot of those models are like, because this is what I can get away with.
Yeah.
Whereas in our state regs, we were given a lot of freedom to basically create anything we wanted. It was very entrepreneurial kind of mindset that our governing bodies kind of allowed us to do. So, whether it's a food and beverage concept, whether it's, I keep making the joke, I'd love to go to a barbershop where I could just smoke a joint. That'd be great, and it's those kinds of things that, yeah, absolutely, our regs allow for it. So as long as we have, pardon?
I did. I saw that I reviewed the regs before in preparation for today.
Yeah, it's wide open to do whatever you can. And I hope to see that, we can prove that that model works, that other jurisdictions throughout the country start to kind of emulate that model as well.
So one thing I did notice, so there's no carry out. So you have to consume on-prem, and can't, my understanding is in Colorado, you actually can buy and go. So that's different in Nevada, right?
Yeah, we really wanted to take into account, traditional bar culture, right? Because again, I don't leave the bar with the drink in my hand. You just consume what you have, enjoy what you have in that space, and off you go to the next opportunity.
Yeah, gotcha. And then also, folks can't bring in their own cannabis. They got to buy it there. It's my understanding.
No, you can't. And again, it's what allows for a successful business model, because if I have you bring in product into our venue, how am I making money as a business to provide you the services that you're asking for?
Gotcha. So now, next avenue you're on to, my understanding, is incorporating food into the next endeavor. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So we're working with this team called Hierarchy. Tamara has a independent license, and she was approached. We were approached by her, and she's like, I have ideas, and what do you think we can do with this license? And I was like, let me tell you what you can do with this license.
Yeah.
And so, we're in Las Vegas. We have chefs who are, the world's greatest. And guess what? A lot of them like to do. They like weed. And so to incorporate a chef, a Vegas chef into a cannabis experience, we thought that was going to be just a home run. So we're looking to develop this supper club style venue for downtown Las Vegas. And that one we're just super excited about because, again, it's another way of enjoying cannabis, and it'll be something different, and we'll see if it works. We're very confident that it'll work. But how many cannabis restaurants are there, out there in the country right now? Tip of the hat to the guys at Pleasure Med or Pleasure Media and to OG Cannabis Cafe, because, they found ways to integrate food quite lovely. And so we'd like to do the same thing.
Fantastic. Any of your favorite, infused food items?
No, because
I've never had it personally.
Right.
So.
And what I want to, again, when we look at the cannabis space, we have to take into account the reality of building a market. And, the idea of just cannonball diving into the space is asking a lot from not just, our investors, but also from the industry, right? We can't just ask a production company, hey, I need, this infused product and this much, I don't have par levels, right? So I have to take it slow. And the one thing that we've been really excited about is the opportunity to kind of create single serve accoutrements, dipping sauces. I again, always show respect to the guys who did it first, but I believe it was Kiva who did some kind of infused ketchup packet with a Whataburger. And that was like, that's it. Like, that's how you slowly move into this space, right? So let's have a chef make an amazing cheeseburger that's like, wow. And then here's your cannabis infused ketchup so that you can, properly allot how much you would want. And then we're kind of working our way into, now let's get into more sophisticated, what I see as a $300 and $400 private event tickets that you can get. And someone has like a 8-course cannabis infused dining experience, but one thing at a time.
I love it. Love that idea. I love the idea of cannabis comedy clubs and definitely at concerts and venues. Folks have been sneaking it into those places for a long time. Might as well make it above board at this point in time. So where do you see the future? What does normalization look like to you?
So I think normalization is going to start coming from non-combustibles. The reality is I've been taking my kid to his football, basketball, soccer practice. The helicopter parenting routine these days. All of our children are going to be professional athletes. And all the time I'm seeing someone just, right? Like, there's always a parent somewhere just popping that vape pen, and I know it's not cotton candy flavor. So, there's something to be said about the discreetness of those products, but also just a larger market that perhaps doesn't want to jump into the flower scene. It's never going to go away, but to grow the market, I believe, is just to offer more products outside of just traditional combustibles. And then when that happens, perhaps that's what makes it easier for these lounges to kind of start popping up in other markets, because the Clean Indoor Air Act is a very big deal. And you don't see a lot of venues where smoking traditional cigarettes are permitted. And so now we're asking to kind of go back to that route. And again, I have no problem with smoke. I lived in Las Vegas since 2005. It's just part of the air here. However, normalization is going to come through food and beverage, in my opinion, and just other form factors that are just not simply a joint, pre-roll, ounce, gram, what have you. And then on top of that, I kind of challenge people to this is find other people to talk about you. We need more ambassadors outside of the cannabis space. That's when normalization happens. I like to make the joke about Sex and the City. If they ever make a new one, whether it's passe or there's a new version, because I'm a boomer now, maybe Euphoria, the movie, there's just more of a subtlety of smoking cannabis versus, hey, I'm smoking a joint and this is a cannabis joke, comedy, spoof, whatever. Like, just make it part of your regular culture play. And then suddenly it starts to kind of resonate with other audiences that, oh, this is normal. More athletes coming out to promote that, you know, the cannabis that they're using is better for their health. Like, we need more of those guys out there so that the league starts to be a little more fair to our, you know, entertainers who use their body to just get bludgeoned. It's those things that I think create normalization. And then, of course, lounges being able to show that, hey, there's just regular folks here, you know, to the point of my shirt, just want to get high and listen to Steely Dan, right? Like, what's wrong with that? I mean, who's gone to a Steely Dan concert where there wasn't the smell of weed? Get out of here.
That's
So,
right.
you know, it's just more of those things where as venues pop up and we could show it's safe, we could show that it's, you know, it's not a dive bar, you know, it's not a opium den. It's just a sophisticated venue for you to entertain yourself outside of the normal bar nightclub scene. Then we have some way of normalizing. But it's going to take time, and it's going to be more than just the hardcore scene, you know, screaming from the top of the platform that, oh, we deserve more recognition. Like, we do, but we need more people to speak on our behalf.
No doubt. That's why we're here. We're trying to get the message out there. So the other thing that I think will lend itself to expanding normalization or encouraging normalization is I see that Nevada's can't cap single serving at, I think it's 10 milligram. Is that accurate?
Yes. And, you know, to the point, do you necessarily want to go to a bar and drink only Bacardi 151? So, you know, again, I know that there is a large market out there who enjoys their sips with 100 milligrams and their Uncle Arnie's and all these other products that have very high dosage. And for them, I say, cool, you have your Bacardi 151.
Right.
But if you go to a bar, people do like to drink a light beer, a spritzer, you know, things that are just a little less, just more approachable for other audiences. And so at Smoke and Mirrors, coming out the gates, the Thrive team provided 2.5 milligram, 5 milligram, and 10 milligram drinks. The number one selling product in that venue was the 2.5 milligram drink. And on top of that, you know, and again, this is where I kind of push back on some of these loud voices online because I need my 100 milligrams and I know everyone else out there does. They don't, because we're seeing it in the venues. There were been days in the first 90 days of operations at Smoke and Mirrors where 70% of the revenue was coming from cannabis cocktails.
Wow.
Proofs in the numbers.
Yeah.
And, you know, it wasn't the high dosage drinks. It was 2.5 milligrams. And there were people who did drink 5 milligrams and sometimes said, I'll have 2. And that's great. Because that's what you do when you go to a bar. 2 glasses of wine, 3 beers, 2 shots of Hennessy. I mean, whatever you want to do. But the idea of just having this high dose product and seeing that we're limiting it with our single serve model, I think is a little aggressive that, you know, it's proving to work right now. As a matter of fact, I like to see even lower dose products so that we can, again, attract a larger audience to see that this is a better option than just going to a bar and getting shit canned in Vegas.
The cannabis opportunity overall, I look at it as the iceberg under the water, and that's all the rule followers who will not do a Schedule 1 narcotic, and obviously with rescheduling, hopefully, and as promised on the horizon, I think a lot of these rule followers are going to start filing in. And the last thing you want to do is have them huddled in a corner, all paranoid, you know, thinking about things that they said to somebody the week before. And I've seen this happen before with people who are new to cannabis. So I think it's really a great idea to start out on a lower dose and work people into it and find out what their tolerance level is and, you know, find, you know, the strains that they like and their method of consuming. So
look, and I think, and I apologize, I cut you off.
No,
But I think, again, the social use lounge opportunity, the cannabis lounge opportunity, as more of these start coming into existence, the data collection, like the true opportunity to understand just what is going on. Because at a dispensary, I'll sell you a product, off you go. Maybe I'll find out, you know, what your experience was in the event you come back. Now I'm sitting there and I'm seeing it right there in front of me.
Yeah.
How are you feeling? What do you like about this? What don't you like about this? You know, what can I add to this there's so much to learn. Cannabis has been so anecdotal for so long. We're going to start seeing UNLV and the college kind of start integrating some of their studies into what's going on. We're going to see more companies pay more attention to what are the trends that we're seeing in lounges. And so I think that's a really exciting opportunity to strengthen the industry as a whole.
Absolutely. I'm involved in the cannabis beverage side, and not only representing some clients, but also I'm on the board of the Cannabis Beverage Association. And data is very important. So if you know anybody that's collecting data, particularly on beverages, that's another conversation that we need to have, because
100%.
It's very important, not only for consumers, but for folks who want to invest in it. And there are a lot of folks that want to do that too. So they want to see what's working. Are you hearing anything? So what any negatives that you're hearing from folks?
The only negative that I'll be able to like confidently say like is a real negative, it's just operationally we're very challenged. You know, we just don't have the opportunity yet, you know, to have a room of 500 people and like we're all just making sure that all of our guests are taken care of like tip top shape, because technology isn't there yet. And then the other thing is just that, you know, there's not a lot of opportunity yet to present lots of options, right? You're going to sell what you can get your hands on, and we're taking lots of guesses, you know, with how things work. And so, you know, I have a normie come in and they see someone dabbing like, ooh, I want to do that. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Not yet. Let's work through this first. And so there's both sides of the equation. It's where there's some things that we probably don't want to necessarily share with our new consumers. And then, you know, the other thing is that do we have the opportunity to really provide that high dose experience for those guests? And, you know, which is not yet there. We'll need some more time to refine our operations and, you know, be able to better create that environment for those different sectors. But again, that's where I keep saying that that's when the market's mature enough. There's enough versions of these venues for different groups and niches and markets. And then we can probably get to that place. But for right now, that was a very long-winded, roundabout, running in circles way of just saying the only negatives is just that we're not there yet from the level of sophistication of hospitality services. Just because
It's new. Sounds like you need more lower dose products. So you need more drinks or more
pre-rolls. Look, I mean, it's one of the funniest things was, you know, overconsumption prevention was one of the most important things in terms of the operation of these venues, to ensure that our regulators are like, okay, you guys are doing a good job. And, you know, we did the right thing by doing this. And when I mentioned that I went to Amsterdam and I wanted the White Widow, that was a mistake. I told you, I started on sticks and seeds, right?
Yeah.
So now we have 27% THC infused moon rocks, keef, you know, the whole nine. It's a thing that's there. People are going to want to do that. They're coming to Vegas, right? Especially this tourist market. They're coming to Vegas. They want to go all out. And it's those things that I'm hoping to continue to message where, why don't you start with this 6% THC? And I know there's going to be people watching this like 6%, get out of here. That's insane. But why can't we have a little dog walker session play and we're just kind of hanging out because we have other things to do throughout the day? And there are people who basically smoke that 27% and they're couch locked. And it's not a good experience for the person that's having that experience, nor the people around them. They're like, whoa, what's happening to that guy? So, you know, again, yes, we definitely need more selection processes, but we have to prove the market first, and chicken and the egg situation. It's all good.
You're out there doing it.
Trying.
One thing, I guess, before we close for today, in your bio, I noticed that you're involved in kind of this wellness hedonism movement. That kind of caught my attention. And you'd mentioned earlier that it used to, if you're going out for on a night at a town, you're almost you're aware that I'm going to feel this the next day and maybe the day after that as you get older. I know that's my experience. It's why I don't drink anymore. I cannot stand the hangover. I just too many people depending on me. So, but I like the idea of like going out to have a good time, and you're actually doing your body good, maybe reducing your inflammation with some cannabinoids. So can you maybe tell a little bit about that movement?
Sure. So, again, when we were, and it's a really interesting, conversation around how do lounges get created? And it's, a regulatory process that took a long time. We started working on cannabis lounges from regulatory perspective back in 2017, and it only took till last year for these things to happen. And it was towards the end of that process where we just kept kind of noticing this mocktail non-alcoholic market is starting to really percolate. Las Vegas casinos are starting to really take a look at, hey, we need other options besides traditional alcohol. And so we started looking for, well, how are we going to create our cocktail program? And again, this is how you, as a business, you can have your vision, but if you put blinders on and you don't look around at the other trends to integrate into your business model, because you got to see where are other things going and jump into that so that you can propel that momentum. And so we saw the wave of non-alcoholic products and we wanted to get involved with that. And it helped our argument with the regulators in terms of not everyone in the room is going to be smoking weed. It's not this giant, cloud in the room. And while we do have very extensive HVAC requirements, which I'm happy that we have because it makes a better experience for our guests, not as many people are smoking weed all at the same time in our venues right now. And so from that perspective, we started to look for products, and there's products like Liars and Seedlip and these non-alcoholic products that I personally, and I don't want to poo-poo on anybody, but I just didn't like them. Mm-hmm. And I found a product called Sobreo, and Sobreo was, instead of marketing itself as a non-alcoholic product where it's like, I want to taste like rum, but I'm not rum. They were just unique flavors that are more like an ultra premium mixer. And so we started to create cocktails where, again, if you look at the cannabis drink market, it's either a spritzer or it's a fruit punch. You know what I'm saying? Like it's one or the other. It's a high fructose corn syrup taste, or it's, bubbling water and someone whispers in your ear what flavor it's supposed to be. Now, with the Sobreo product, we started making drinks that were original and unique, and we can call it our own. Whether it was the Godfather, whether it was the Higher Ground, we made these drinks that were inspired by traditional cocktails like daiquiris and old fashions. But utilizing the Sobreo product allowed us to kind of ensure that it had a sophisticated flavor. And it was proven because when guests came to the venue and we aggressively pushed, try the drinks, try the drinks, try the drinks, try the drinks. Not very many people had bad things to say because they're like, I'm spending $16 on a cannabis cocktail. This better taste good. Oh, this tastes good. Oh, this is different and unique. Oh, I'd like to try another one. So we achieved our goal by pushing this, non-alcoholic option that still is a good time. It still has a little bit of adult entertainment sprinkled in it with the cannabis. But to your point, no hangovers. I'm now 47. I'd like to think I could still party till 3 o'clock in the morning. I can't. This is a great way to just kind of end the night at like 10, 11. And it's like, oh, I'm still having a good time.
Maybe if my kids, they start getting married, I'm saving myself for 3 o'clock in the morning partying then, but I can't do it now, man. That's for sure.
It's a lot
I'm 49. So, and actually we're Gen Xers. Yeah. I'm not, so, just to clarify that for you, you're not a boomer. You're a Gen Xer.
Yeah.
At least in
the kids call us boomers. You got to listen to what the kids are saying.
So, well, hey, I think we're done for the day. I would love to have you on again and have you talk about your journey in this brand new industry. It's fantastic, and I wish you much success. And I'm sure you're going to have it. And best wishes to you.
Hey, no, thank you. And I look forward to continuing the conversation. Anyone out there trying to do the damn thing, make it happen. Love what you're doing, man, make it happen, because you are an example of how big the audience is. So there's a need for these things. Start making some lounges.
If anybody wants to get a hold of you, how can they get a hold of you?
I'm on the adult Facebook now with LinkedIn. So just look me up on LinkedIn at Christopher LaPorte, or on all social medias, I'm at Chris of Coins.
Fantastic. Well, with that, we're signing off, and we'll be back sometime soon.